What's up, everybody? This is Behavior Code, and I am your host, Yogi Chris, PhD, founder of Ninth Limb Yoga. And I have a very special guest tonight. We've had him on a few times. He's the most newly anointed IMC shapeshifting warrior fighting monk, Bryan Casella, the Spartan. So welcome, Bryan. How's it going down there in Los Angeles area?
Chris, my friend, thank you for having me again. Dalsum, aka Dalsum, right? For all the Street Fighter fans, right? I think Chris is actually more capable than Dalsum, which is why I anointed him with that. So in my mind, Chris is above Dalsum, right? Great to be here, brother. Man, life is just continuing to improve and improve and improve, man. I'm reporting back that from a business standpoint, I've expanded. From a personal standpoint, I've expanded. And I just keep breaking, and entering new horizons, man. So I have nothing to report to you but positivity and growth and expansion.
Well, so what does a guy like you talk about then? I mean, what is there to talk about besides just like, you're involved in your business 24/7. Lots of people rely on you. Lots of people look up to you. You're a social media influencer. Like, you're always in demand. If you didn't set boundaries for yourself, somebody would always take advantage of you until you're just like drained dry. And so what does a guy like you like to, what inspires you? What kind of conversations are inspiring you these days?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. The more that people climb the ladder of success, they start realizing, like we were talking about before we started recording, that a lot of the stuff that other people are chasing and going after and glorifying, really, there's no satisfaction in it. And that's a very short, miserable road, I would say. That's the best way to describe it. There'll be a temporary blip of satisfaction and a high, and then you could come crashing down like most people when you realize that it's very empty in that land. So what I've focused on, and this has been implemented since the beginning, but it's expanding more and more and growing. It's just really the focus on self, right? Being extremely particular about who I'm going to talk to in the first place and spend personal time with.
Yeah.
A lot of the rituals, my personal rituals, keeping up with my studies and improving my evolution from a mental standpoint, as well as a physical standpoint. The physical portion of it was always there for me. I always took pride in my physique and working out, being strong, being athletic.
Yeah.
But really supercharging that and combining it with the mental practices too, which is really what I've done over the last few years. And that really is just, the priority for me now, and conversations are always about new ideas and growth. And it's never about people, gossip, or any of that stuff. It's really just engaged in next level type thinking and conversations about subjects that maybe I don't even know about, So like when we hang out, right, we always have conversations that are more expansive about diverse subjects, which is what I like talking about. I don't want you asking me, hey, bro, did you see the game last night? Like, I don't care, and I have no interest in that. So it's really just about the constant evolution of self. And I think because our crew is so dedicated to that, we naturally just click and have a really good time and enjoy our company because of that. We're all focused on the same thing. It's
really incredible how in tune we are with each other on that frequency that it's really unfound elsewhere. And I am so privileged to be on base because I'm just surrounded by it. I like hacked my way into the center of this thing. You saw me coming from the outside, and I was like the sperm that enters the ovary, and I made it, and I'm like all the way into the center and impregnating this thing with Ninth Limb Yoga, energy. It was a fascinating analogy. What you were saying though, new subjects, what's interesting for me, I was very physical always. And I was also very mental, but I never had like real mind-body connection. I don't want to use the word alchemy, but like really self-image or I just didn't have that experience. Like it was never my language to be like, I'm connected with my body. I'm like, I'm in my body, or I'm grounded, or like I understood the idea of warming up before I trained. I understand the idea of like muscle memory and like repeating an action to like get it precise. But like now, the mental has become like, it's as if I wasn't even doing the physical. When I learned the mental practices, it like I relearned the physical all over again. It was like, whoa, that's like everything's new again. Because was it like that for you? And
Absolutely, man. And I understand that. And I got a first taste of that too, as I started getting around, even during my athletic days of playing basketball, just getting around higher level people, because really what I found from like a trainer and coach standpoint, they understood that. But from the player standpoint, even the people who couldn't intellectually put it like you put it, they made that connection, right? And I started hanging out with a lot of people who I saw. I was like, dude, what separates, when I'm playing overseas or I'm hanging out with these guys who all play in the NBA, they're all from a physical standpoint, peak shape and phenomenal athletes. What's separating the guy who's maybe doing a little bit better or who excels versus the other guy? And it was always that mind to body connection, but more so they leaned more and played more in the mental realm and universe, right? Which I really loved. I look at something in sports as simple as trash talking, right? And the fact that I could just say words to somebody in a certain sequence that gets them upset, right? And now they can't play good, right? It affects their performance, right? So little tricks like that, studying, Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. And if people haven't really looked at them, I recommend you go on YouTube and watch some videos of like when they have the hot mic on them, listen to these guys while they play. They're having full-blown conversations while they're schooling guys on the basketball court, like unheard of, like a level of conversation that I think the average person, even if they were focused on just talking, couldn't have that kind of conversation. And these guys are peak performance, slaying people on the basketball court and having these full conversations. So to me, again, it wasn't until recently that, like you described, I made that connection, but I saw it, right? And I was always fascinated, like, man, how are these guys doing that, right? And when I started to explore this more and more, it really became apparent to me how much more we can push ourselves and how much more we can achieve once we start playing with these realms. And most recently, before I pass it back to you,
pass it back, you're hogging the ball, man.
I kind of describe this in a sense of, if we're going to separate these realms of 0 point reality and 1 point reality, 0 point being our mind and the internal, and 1 point being the physical plane. And I just would speak on it from a standpoint of like society and how things have been warped, where the 0 point reality of our phone, certain people getting certain messages from certain echo chambers.
What is the 0 point reality of the phone? What does that mean?
Well, it just means that the phone is part of the 0 point reality, because in a sense, I can manipulate somebody by sending them the same message over and over on the phone to paint a picture that will then create their perception of what the physical plane 1 point reality is, when that could be a complete fabrication, which we see with the media as an example, right?
Yeah, I'm following.
So it's kind of related, but in the sense, being able to fuse both of them and understand both independently, but have them working together in harmony, I believe is what these athletes do, and what I've been able to do as a most recent, and what our crew continues to do and push, because you'll see a lot of people who focus on extremes. Some people are just all about the mental realm, and some people are all about the physical realm. Well, how about the people that combine both? I think that's where the next level is, and that's kind of that frontier, that we're exploring.
Yeah, what comes to mind is really the laws of nature, that I think what you're calling the 0 point reality would be like objective reality. It is as it is. And then the 1 point being like the personal narrative of what's happening, the subjective reality. Is that about right?
You flipped it. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. Objective would be like what's actually happening. Like this mouse is actually here. And that would be 0 point.
1.
That would be 1 point. And so 0 point would be my story of it, like that. I like that.
Yes.
Mouse. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. I got it. I forgot what I was going to say about it.
You brought up the laws of nature.
It seems like to align the 0 point with the 1 point, in the 1 point, which is the objective reality, that it's going by cause and effect and logic. And, like if you say that to the client, or you approach the girl that way, or you do this with your money, or you wake up at this time, like this is what happens to the body. You eat this food, or before or after workout. Like this is the principles of how, the mechanics of everything, nuts and bolts. Yeah. And then, maybe aligning my expectations so that it aligns with something that's feasible, but also, not inhibiting the possibilities that I could, exercise, not limiting my choice because I'm telling myself some negative story that gives me, takes me off course or whatever. So the more I can align what I'm telling myself with the world, really. But then how does one do that? I mean, is that the study of philosophy and having how do you do that, man? How do you align 1 point with 0 point?
Yeah. And I think that's the quest for everybody, because can any one person say they know the exact 1 point reality? That's the actual 1 point reality, right? Now, what I see is like with our crew as an example, and I do this a lot in my life too, we have a lot more in terms that maybe we can understand, like reference points, right? I think a lot of people just grow up, and the term that you hear now in the mainstream is echo chambers, right? They hang around with one type of person, one crew, one clique who says life is this way, and that's their only reference, right? But if somebody's studying philosophy and all these other people studying different times, somebody who travels a lot, like you've traveled tremendously and been to different cities, different states, you have a different actual experience of what it's like versus just what you're seeing on TV or what somebody said or what you heard growing up, right? So that gives you an advantage. And I think a lot of people just are so stuck in their ways and only look at one thing and know one thing, yet they have this illusion that they know everything about everything, which is completely false. Yet because of social media, we've been able to gravitate towards and feed into that behavior of, well, this guy thinks like me, I'm going to hang out with him. Well, this person thinks like me too. And then we create these little subgroups that all think the same way. And that's what's causing so much division. And for people to have this like one track mind that doesn't really get them anywhere. And we've heard the saying, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. When that same person who has that one line of thinking now, let's say, wants to become an entrepreneur, well, they're going to get slapped in the face because their interpretation of what the world is like and what entrepreneur type activities and what it's going to be like is completely different from that one point objective reality, right? And that's going to slap them in the face. And that's where I think that's a wall that kind of we've crushed. You know, think of all the things that we've learned, all the different subjects that we studied, all the different types of people that we studied, whereas the average person won't even look at those subjects because mommy and daddy said, you can't study that. That's the devil, you know?
Yeah, it really seems like we got to outgrow the they call it the substrate or like the foundation of what we were grown in. Really, we got to transcend that, and that's very ego. I think a lot of what you're talking about is very kind of we get locked in or frozen into a certain way of thinking, and we got to melt that away and be more fluid with it, more adaptable, like a baby almost, but with an adult intellect. And so that's really cool. That's like what tapping in is. That's what the beasting is tapping into kind of, you could almost say, if I wanted to sound super smart, you're tapping into that neuroplasticity. And then you feed your nervous system different information, and you do these mental practices, looking through other eyes and imagining different self-images and whatever, wear different self-images, if that makes sense to whoever got that. And wow, man, what an adventure, really. And it I think of, as you were talking, I was thinking of the idea of obsession and being obsessed, and how obsessed is too obsessed. Is there a limit? I mean, do we go like, what's that mathematician? Isaac Newton obsessed, Albert Einstein obsessed, or Kobe Bryant obsessed? What's the cost? I mean, you're at a high level of success, real estate mogul. I call you a realtor mogul. Maybe that's not what you would call yourself, but I'm like, damn, dude, you're fucking blowing up. Like I see you as you will be, maybe is what I don't know, but I think you're doing phenomenal. And, I didn't really give you justice on the intro. I mean, you're a professional basketball player. You turned to real estate from nothing and you've built it up. You have a big team in multiple states, and it's during quarantine, you're exploding. So like, what is the expense? What's the loss of obsession? And where's the limit to how much you'll express your, to how obsessed you'll let yourself become?
Yeah. Great question, Chris. I look at something like obsession, and a few things come to mind. An obsession for somebody, the wrong food can lead to health deteriorating and dying young. Yet for another guy, I forget his name, like the guy who broke the first, I think it was 4-minute mile.
Roger Bannister.
Right? There we go. He obsessed about it. He was told that he couldn't do it. He obsessed about it, achieved it, right? And he'll go down in the history books. Then all of a sudden, everybody started doing it after that. Within a year, I think they said 4 or 5 people did the same thing, right? So, when you look at that frontier of like innovation, change, technology, growth, I think it requires that certain individual to be obsessed about it, right? Look at Tesla as an example, right? And his obsession with energy, frequency, vibrations, and everything that he did. So I look at those people as like the pioneers and almost like a necessary part of our evolution as human beings to see where can we take this from an athletic standpoint, from a technological standpoint, philosophical standpoint, and I think it's great. It's also, we have to remember that it's a tool that has to be used properly, because then if we obsess towards the wrong things like food or something like that, or alcohol, right, smoking cigarettes and things that deteriorate ourselves, then, you know, what are we really doing with it? So I really think that's where our intellect can come in as human beings, to be able to successfully think critically and say, okay, I have this tool that I can use, but let me make sure that I'm using this tool properly and in the right arena, because if used effectively, then I can do crazy stuff with that people probably won't even deem possible. But if I use it incorrectly, it could lead to my own detriment.
That's a fact. You know, using the right instrument in the right way. And well, it's very interesting. I had no idea that you had in you the vocabulary of 0 point and 1 point, and then I learned I learned about these things from you. And you know, it's a fascinating, what would have been like, man, what is the success journey like? Is this sometimes I sit back and I think, is this all there is? Is it just leveling up every day and getting rid of the things that don't serve me and better integrating my life so I'm more productive and leveraging my relationships, improving the quality of my communication? Just like in the old language it would be like the daily grind of self-improvement or something. Maybe I don't use those words anymore, but you know, what is that what it is? I mean, I feel like I'm talking to somebody way high up on the mountain. I'm like in a phone call. I'm like, hey man, I'm climbing the mountain. Like, is it just one step after the other, or what are some of the highlights of the journey?
Yeah, man, I think that's a part of it. I also think that even within that journey, we tend to accept what other people have deemed as the journey, and we fail to look outside of that. Like, one question that I pose to people all the time that maybe approach me about real estate or something entrepreneurial, I say, well, those one or two things you're looking at, if money wasn't involved, like if money wasn't involved, you didn't need to make money and you just got to choose what you wanted, what would you do? And I'm met with like glossed over eyes every time, because I didn't even think of that, right? So with me, yes, I took the traditional path, did it for a while. After a couple of years, even I questioned myself and said, what am I really doing here? Is this really what I want to do? So it became like an exploratory thing for me. What's the next uncharted territory, right? What feeds my soul, right? What can I do on a daily basis? And for me, we were talking about it earlier, it's the simple things that feed my soul. Reading a book, waking up early, taking cold showers. Like, I find joy and I take pride in a lot of those things, even like sleeping on the couch or on the floor, right? And not using the bed. To me, that's cool, right? And the way we would speak about it, because we focus so much on communication, we can talk about it for a minute. People are like, oh man, I want to do that too. But it's the way that we deliver it, right? How about the fact that between human beings, if you become a good storyteller, you can literally have somebody's mind wrapped up to where they're thinking about you all the time and they want you around all the time, men or women, right? To me, that's fascinating. So I just took almost like a childlike mentality to life, where with a child, or even my fucking cats, bro, I could give them a highlighter and they're going to have fun for 2 hours. But I give a highlighter to a human and he's like, why are you giving me this, bro? Right? It seems so insignificant. So what I did was, you mentioned this earlier, shedding away. It's been more of that process to get back to the root. Because I think when we get to the root of consciousness and awareness as a human being, there isn't any of these prejudgments and labels, right? And we start to experience things for what they actually are. But what does that actually mean? So for me, the journey to get back to that is very fascinating. Now, that doesn't make sense to a lot of people. It will to you in our circle, but to the average person listening, they're like, what the fuck is this hippie talking about, right? But source, whatever the fuck you want to call it, right? I find myself being more fascinated with that more than anything. So it's been more of a process of just stripping away to realize, you know what? I've turned into a fucking robot, right? When people say certain words, I immediately have certain associations attached to it, and then almost like in a definite way. And I've never questioned that, to say, well, how come when somebody says like doctor, I only think this? Like, is that really what it is? Or is there something else to it? So it's almost like, again, going back to being a kid and just being curious about things, because a kid will question that. You tell them to do something, oh, why do I have to do it? And the more I look at the behavior of a child that's been untainted, in a sense, if that's the right word, it just fascinates me, bro. So for me, it's been more of a journey of having sort of a regression, in a sense, of getting back to that childlike spirit. And that's really what has fueled a lot of what I'm doing, man. Because when I apply that way of thinking and line of thinking to like real estate, that's what's allowed me to do what I've been doing the last couple of years. Because to me, the roadblocks that other people would run into mentally, I don't run into.
Yeah, and it's interesting, this word fascinating, because I like to use the word fascinating, and I'm fascinated by how, because realty is such a materialistic occupation. I mean, it's literally what it is. It was funny.
Yeah.
Somebody said to me the other day, because they're this hater I have on Trump. He's a Trump hater,
Yeah.
and but I have this bet going with him because I want to stream. He has 42,000 followers on whatever, Instagram or something. So I made this bet that I would post anyway, whatever. And he'd bring me on his live stream. So he comes on my live streams a lot. He's literally, like AZD says, he's my number one fan. He's like on my live streams more than anybody, just although he didn't show up today. And but always talking trash. So he sends me a private message in the background. What a trip it would be if he like showed up right now. And he says something like, Trump literally incited those riots by saying the election was invalid. I'm like, wait, you need to look up what the word literally means. That's not what literally means. Like, I forgot. I sidetracked. But literally, you're speaking my language, man. I'm fascinated at seeing what appears to be such a material. Like, it's easier to be a monk at a temple.
Yeah,
that's why they have temples. And I think the big distractors are going to be money, power, and women, sensuality, and intense experiences or feelings, which is going to be drugs or triggered by money, power, and women. And those are where the man is tested.
Yep.
This idea of unplug. It's fascinating to see someone so embedded in, I mean, literally you have the city behind you. What is that? Los Angeles? Is that what that is?
I think it's New York.
New York?
Yeah.
Oh, well, downtown LA doesn't look too dissimilar from that. And, that's, I see you as like that. I mean, are you going to be trading in like skyscrapers one day? I think to myself. And then you to hear what you're talking about, which hits a depth in me, like you're saying, like going to source, viewing things from source perspective, the removing of the mind in between, but also the mind, it's like there. So it's like understanding the mind. What's in my mind? That's, I think of it almost like when you drop the egg or you drop the ball down the chute, and it like finds its way to the properly shaped hole that it goes into, and it's like guided. And it's like, that's how the sensory inputs are. Sense inputs come in, and then we already have a pathway for how they're going to go. But at a certain level of mindfulness or in opportune circumstances, we can almost observe that process of like, oh, I just heard that and I saw my body react like in this pathway, and start to cut it out. Like once you see it, then you can like just tell yourself, cut it out. And
right,
if you want to, right. And so I'm hella fascinated. I'm like mega fascinated at, hacking those responses in a way that just through life, like we end up moving through the social matrix, through our interrelationships with people, the level of ease or tension that we have is attracting or repelling, and cooperation or not, and then having a vision. So I'm leading myself somewhere, and everything is emanating from my image of what I'm holding all day, kind of thing. I don't know. I probably jumped a few logic points there, but to do that and to ascend like you have at a level of prestige. It's no joke. Like I saw myself doing it with yoga as I'm calling all these yoga studios. I'm about to redo it. Actually, not that the world is opening up and then I'm going to do the touring thing, but now I'm going to prospect all the yoga studios for the few studios that are aligned with, let's say this red pill philosophy. And I'm just going to focus on them and then integrate this with IMC. It's a new vision I had in the last like 24 hours.
Fantastic, man. I love that.
Yeah. And it's, the behaviors of the person that's already succeeded in that is available to me if I can, let's say like neuroplastic, if I just need to like shapeshift into that way of being using my imagination, but I need a proper conception of one point reality. I got my 0 point narrative that's out of perspective, that what I thought wealth was going to be like, I didn't know it was like that. What I thought getting the girlfriend was going to be like, I didn't know it was going to be like that. And so like wisdom, I'm intrigued by the mathematics of it. where I'm literally just like substituting like my behaviors or whatever. And modeling it after a teacher, like how important that is. Like I see myself, the lifestyle is just coming into play, just mirroring my teacher, just being here. It's happening like that.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm very happy that I had you on the show and talking with you, because it's refreshing and good to reconnect.
Likewise, brother.
You know, you were just here at Beast Camp. What are some of is anything still sticking with you from, this was the last Beast Camp. I don't know that AZD is ever going to do it again. The next camp is a mystery method pickup event, Venusian Arts. It's 2 days. And who knows if he'll ever go back. He never went back and did the Messengers again. He never did Tabiat again. He left Love Spell behind for Lion's Den. So it's an evolution here. So anything still sticking with you?
One of the main things I can talk about, brother, is you just said it. You said the word evolution. Mm-hmm. You know, I've been with the Rosh now 7 years, right? Since my first event. He's become a business partner now, still a tremendous mentor. And I see in his life evolution constantly. And to be with somebody at a friendship level, teacher level, name any level you want, to see them continuously evolve, right? I can count those people on one hand, just a few figures, and he's one of them. So that to me has been the most kind of resounding thing over the last few years is I can't ever look at him or this crew and be like, they kind of stagnated. That thought doesn't even come into my mind, right? And to be around that to me, especially in today's day and age, is priceless, because I feel as a society standpoint, from a consciousness and awareness and communication standpoint, most people are going backwards. Like, it's ridiculous. So to be able to just be around this, and again, the material is fantastic. We're not even talking about that. I'm just talking about overall, bro. Yeah. That to me is the key. And that's where I want people to start looking, because I assume most people are just so focused on the material. The material is fantastic. But what I'm talking about, that X factor, that next level thing, or the thing that you're not paying attention to, is it. That's the thing that you're looking for, that you want to be associated with, that's going to stick around, that's going to keep you evolving and keep you growing and keep you progressing and answer, right? It's going to rip out the root of all the bullshit that you're dealing with. Mm-hmm. That's what we're talking about here. And that to me, bro, is incredible, right? That to me is priceless, right? That's why when it's like, hey, dude, when's the next event? Okay, signed up. I send the payment, or I signed up within seconds, right? Yeah. So, and you're going to continue to have that behavior from me, because that's what this means to me. Let my actions speak louder than my words.
Fucking A. Well said. That was great. I feel supercharged right now, because I'm having all these realizations as you're speaking. It's like recalling the vibe as we talk about the experience here. And wow, that was transcendent, man. Which, by the way, you know this word play of like transcending, right? You learn that in Messengers, and you know the word days, like to be dazed and confused, like the days of the week. Right. You know, and man, I just saw another one. Anyway, so that's all. I think that's good. I don't want to make it longer than it needs to be. I think that was supercharged, super powerful. People, everybody here knows Bryan. There's going to be recordings of this on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube, so definitely subscribe to the channel. You can find Bryan on his Instagram at Bryan Casella with a Y, and his YouTube, Bryan Casella. Is very, very well known. Get on his programs if you're a realtor, because we'll be tagging this up for realtors. Then, I mean, he's the guy to go to. You can hear it in his speech and the authenticity and how organic it is, because it's coming from, you know, he's the most spiritual realtor I think that I know, really, when it comes down to it. I mean, Chris Cruz is super spiritual, but he's in a different way. And, you know, there's something about the external, what has been created while doing those internal practices. And I can vouch for it, because I've been around you for enough years. I know I lived with you for probably a total of like 9 months, if you put it all together, or more, even, I don't know. And, you know, you're really you're in your process, and you are what you speak about. And I mean, it's legit for sure. You're hella legit. And so it's been an honor, you know, on the journey so far. And I should say that, really, because it's the fucking end of the world. Who knows what's going to happen? Really, really. Right. I mean, it wouldn't be uncertain if there wasn't some risk of some danger of something going wrong, even if aliens show up or something. So salute, sir. Thank you for being here.
Prana bump.
Yeah, Prana bump right there. We just gave it away there. Now we just made it public, our secret handshake there. And we'll catch you on the next one. Os.
Thank you, brother.